What's up, everybody? It's Suhel with Sensei to Run. We're here with another week of action. We are a couple days removed from varsity district meet at the Horizon Golf Course, and a lot of information to digest. So it took me a couple of days to look over everything, and there were some great performances. We won't be able to cover them all, but I will cover what I felt was some of the more notable performances to come out of this past Thursday, and we'll get right into it, starting with the 1-4A girls division. It was all Irvin from the start in this division, and this 2 mile race was separated by 14 seconds for the top three runners, which was all Irvin High School. They were led by Alicia Sakil, and right behind her, pushing the pace, was her teammate Hilda Urina, and they both ran incredibly well, running 14:38 respectively for the 2 mile. And Alicia was only a couple or a few seconds in front of her teammate Hilda, so it made for a very interesting performance between teammates. It was almost like a practice for them, the way they were running well together as a team. And some other notable standouts from this race was Jaslyn Sarmiento from El Paso Harmony, who came in fourth with a 14:53, and Genesis Esparza from Austin High School, who finished fifth with a time of 15:14. And both these girls were first for their teams respectively. I saw a lot of great stuff out of these 4A girls. I felt like they pushed the pace well. They ran real well, in a pretty long course there at the Horizon Golf Course. I think it was slightly longer than a 5K, and it's very hilly. As you guys will see if you watched some of my race highlights, you'll see that it wasn't that easy of a course. But I felt like they challenged themselves, and the Irvin's girls division, varsity team rather, they proved that they were the number one team this whole season long. And I felt like they ran well as a team, and it's going to be interesting to see now that they've punched their ticket to regionals. All three teams to push their way to ticket for the 1-4A girls division would be Irvin, Austin, and Harmony. And it'll be fun to see what these girls do in the next coming weeks when they go out there on a much bigger stage. Moving on, we're going to cover the 1-4A boys. In this division, we saw a little bit of a different picture painted. We saw Austin High School control the race from start to finish with four of their runners in the top five. They were led by Luis Pereira, who took the lead pretty early on in the race. I felt like he was running very comfortable. He looked very relaxed, and it showed with his first place finish, and his time was 17:54, which is not bad for a 1-4A boy at all. Another good runner was Abdiel Hernandez, who was fourth place from Irvin High School. His time was around 19 minutes flat. And Victor Hernandez from another Harmony kid, coming out coming on the scene and showing why these teams belong to be in the mix for 4A, in terms of the regional scene. Victor managed to finish sixth with a time of 19:46. Very great time for 4A boy. And so we got three schools, Austin, Harmony, and El Paso Irvin, all punching their ticket to regionals as well. I liked this race. These boys ran real well. The 4A division doesn't get enough respect because of how well we've been seeing the 5A and 6A divisions running this year collectively. And I'm excited to see what these boys do. I think all three teams can make their mark in the regional scene, and it's going to be interesting to see come a couple weeks when regionals hits. Moving on to 2-4A. I've been very high on this young lady from the start of the season. I think she's really challenged herself. Even though 4A girls are only running 2 miles at regionals and beyond, this girl has shown that even in the 5K scene that she can be a dominant force. And that's number one girl from Fabians, which is Alexia Martinez. She finished first with a time of 13:09, which was, the top 4A time, coming out of this week. She was pretty much by herself. She wasn't challenged, I don't think, at all from the start. And the next person behind her was her teammate, Angel Quinones, who finished second with a time of 13:37. So we see there's a pretty noticeable gap, about 28 seconds in between first and second. And if you start looking, down the list a little bit, you can see that Miss Martinez really controlled this race. Just a dominant performance by her. Other notable performance was one that I mentioned earlier in one of my weekly episodes was Dainara Gonzalez from Mountain View. And she was in third place with a time of 14:11. So you can kind of see the disparity between first and third. That's not to penalize Gonzalez because I thought she had an incredibly great race, despite, I felt like she was able to stay collected, stay focused, despite what the girls in front of her were doing. She ran real well and led this Mountain View team to compete real well at the district race. Another great performance was from Megan Castro from Riverside with the fourth place finish and a time of 14:45. And another great performance from another young lady that I've mentioned earlier in one of my episodes as well was Alexandra Renteria from Wila in fifth with a time of 14:46. So we're seeing some of these other teams that, they don't necessarily get the spotlight as much as, I think they deserve. But they went out there, they ran a great race, and that is why Wila is one of three girls alongside Fabens and Riverside to be punching their ticket to regionals. So congratulations to these teams. On the 4A's boys team, to me it was a little bit more of a no surprise here in terms of what teams made it. An incredible 2024 season by this year's district champion, which was Antonio Arriola. Last year, again, like I said, he was district champion, and this year he built on that even more to have an even more dominant performance, becoming a district champ. What we've seen out of this young man all year long is he may be a 4A runner by qualification, but in terms of talent and his effort and what he's done this season, I feel like he could easily fit into that 6A division, which is a big jump, from 4A, as we all know. So to be able to cement himself as being able to compete with some of the best here in the city, I think speaks about the magnitude of what this young man can do, and I'm really excited to see what he does at regionals. His finishing time was 16:53, which would have probably landed him in the top 25 in 6A, which is pretty incredible. Top 25, top 30. Another great performance was Armando Jalil, who led the second group behind Ariola with a second place finish in the time of 18:06. So you can kind of see, based on this time here where second place was, on how good of a race Antonio had. And that's not to take anything away from Jalil as well. I thought he had a great race too. Another great runner out of this race was Jesse Ortiz, who represented Fabens, another Fabens runner, coming out strong and having a great race this past Thursday. Ortiz would finish fourth place with a time of 18:24, which, didn't quite help propel his team to regionals, but I think it certainly helps build the narrative there at Fabens that they're producing some good distance runners as of late. So the three teams that we're going to see at regionals will be San Eli, Riverside, and Clint. They're going to be moving on, and so will we in terms of divisions. Moving on to the 1-5A girls. Right away, what I saw out of this race was Burgess coming out swinging. The top two, we had Allison Yurturalde and Savuri Uloa. I'm sorry if I butchered those names, but their times were very, very well run. 21:26 and 21:57 respectively to both girls. From the start, it almost just seems like these girls took off and left everybody else behind. They had a great, strong performance. Now moving on to where we have these young ladies running 5K instead of 2 miles, and so it provides a different perspective and a different challenge, for these young ladies in terms of how they strategize their races. But I felt like they worked real well, and that 1-2 punch from this Burgess team really helped them punch their ticket to Burgess. And another season standout that I've talked a lot about this season is Alexis Renovato, who finished third with a time of 22:22. From Canutillo, this young lady has proven to be one of the better runners here for female athletes in the city of El Paso. I've seen her work, not only in track, she's done real well in her young career. And it's going to be exciting to see what she does, now that she's punched an individual ticket to regionals. So I got a lot of expectations out of this girl, rightfully so, because she's put in the work. Another notable finish out of the 1-5A girls was Jocelyn Diaz Torres from Chapin, another girl that I've mentioned before. She finished fifth with a time of 22:40, and her performance was real pivotal. It really helped propel this Chapin team, where we know this Chapin team to be, some of the best in El Paso in terms of sprinting. And so you don't really hear a lot about them out of the distance scene, but they've really made their mark in the 1-5A scene this year. And it made a difference this year, as we're going to see that Burgess, Chapin, and El Paso High School make it to regionals. So some great performances out of there. Moving on to the 158 boys. This young man has been dominant all year long. I think he belongs in the top 10, top 15 discussion for, top boys all season long. It's out of El Paso High School. It's Andrew Truex. Really had no challenge. There was nobody that could contest him this past Thursday at the Horizon Golf Course for district. And, from start to finish, he was pretty much running by himself. So I think that kind of contributed to his time, which is a little bit slower than what we're used to out of this young man. I think at best, we could have, with some great competition, alongside him, we could have probably seen, close to a 20-second difference. But Andrew Truax finishes first place with a time of 17:31. And not only that, three El Paso boys were in the top three. They dominated this race together collectively, led by Truax, and it was exciting to see this team race. And I think they're gonna really show that, despite losing some of the top runners, they lost Westbrook. They also lost O'Rourke. Some of these more premier runners that we're used to seeing at El Paso High School. These guys are falling foot and showing that they can be at the top of the 5A division as well. Another great performance out of Andres Vega, who finished fourth from Burgess High School with a time of 18:26, and Nathan Leon, another Chapin boy, who helped lead his team with a seventh place finish with a time of 19:33. So again, it's kind of a similar story between the girls, where we're seeing El Paso High School, Burgess, and Chapin qualify to regionals. So it's gonna be an interesting thing out of the 1A division, and I think we're going to see some great races there, come a couple of weeks. Moving on to the 2-5A girls. No surprise here. This girl has been one of my top 5 girls all season long, and she finishes off her season with becoming district champion as Hanks High School, Ashlyn McMillan. She finished first with a time of 19:56. This girl, I've been able to talk to their coaches, and one of the things that we agreed on is from her junior to senior year, we've seen a level of maturity, not just, psychologically, but from physically, to the way she approaches her workouts, her coaches say, and the way she approaches, the dynamics of week in and week out racing. We've really seen some growth, like we said, in that maturity of her, and it's really been a lot of fun to watch. So she finishes first with a 19:56. Moving on, we had 2 standouts from Americas, and what I like about these 2 girls is where if one of them was out, the other one was there to cover, the other that was, whether it was sick or injury or whatever the case was, they complemented each other extremely well. And this past Thursday was no different between Carly Day and Isabel Bali out of America's High School. A great 1-2 punch for their team. They finished second and third respectively, with Carly coming in first at 21:45 and Bali coming at 21:37. And it's just been fun to see these 2 girls battle it out with their team, showing that, look, you might not be here, Carly, so I got your back. I'm going to come and show out and show you that I can fill that spot if you're not here. And so I felt like they ran real well and helped each other push the pace. I got to see Carly Day after the race. She was a little disappointed with her place, but I think that she can't be disappointed in her performance, coming into a very stacked 5A girls division. Hanks was game, and so was America's, and it showed. Both of them punched their ticket to regionals. And one last performance that I thought was real notable, which helped Parkland also punch their ticket to regionals, was led by Anel Ponce. She finished 5th with a time of 22:49. Great race by the Parkland girls. Like I said, some of these teams we don't see, and that doesn't mean they're not premier teams. It's just, we have such a great distancing here in El Paso. It's easy for some of them to be overshadowed by that, which is certainly, what we try and change with some of these episodes. Moving on to the 2-5A boys. It was even more impressive on the 5A boys side with the Hanks team. They had 4 Hanks runners in the top 5. Incredible stuff by this program. Their old coach retired, and now they're under some new tutelage under Coach Delk. And I think she's done a great job, filling the shoes of an incredible program that they've had there as of late. This boys' side was led by Darren Hernandez, who ran an 18:27. And what these boys did. They came out and they ran us. We saw some good group running, and I felt like they weren't separated too far, which is what you need to be doing when you go into the regional scene. You need to have some group running, some pack running, and I think that this is going to help them, give them a good shot at Hanks. It's always a tall order saying that anything can happen at regionals. You want to be on your best foot, and I definitely think that this Hanks boys team is on their way to doing so. Another runner forcing their way in the top 10 was a Bel Air runner, Jonah Fryer, finishing fifth with a time of 19:11 behind these Hanks boys. And right behind Jonah was in sixth place was El Dorado runner Anthony Salazar with a time of 19:15. Both these young men had a great race. They didn't let what they saw in front of them get to them, and they had incredible individual performances that really helped their team. Another notable performance was out of Tristan Olvera in seventh place from America's High School, and he had a time of 19:21. The reason why I mentioned these two young men is that they helped their team also punch a ticket to regionals. So we're going to see Hanks, Americas, and Bel Air, all three of these teams come out and show out in a couple of weeks at regionals. And of course, the main event, which came early in the day, the first two races was 6A in the girls division, continuing her record of first place finishes here in El Paso. Emily Orr pulls out an impressive second place all-time finish at the Horizon Golf Course for district with a time of 18:55. But her dominance all season long was consistency. I think that's what I would describe Miss Orr as. She's Miss Consistent and she's Miss Grit. I don't think I've ever seen this young lady let up, and last Thursday was no different. From beginning to end, she showed that she's got the experience, the attitude, and that's what helped propel her team as well. Behind her as well was freshman sensation from Eastwood High School, Kylie Vega. This is probably one of the more talented young ladies we've seen come out of El Paso in a long time. Her second place finish wasn't too far behind Orr too, with a 19:14. So we're looking at about a 19-second difference, which on a course like this, I think it makes a big difference considering the hills and the terrain. But in terms of attitude, this girl's got it. I think she can really prove, in the regional scene that she's got the confidence to compete with some of the best in the state in a very, very competitive 6A division. It's always a nasty place to compete, and with her level of confidence, it's really helped propel her girls team as well. We had multiple top 5 finishes over season, and she helped lead arguably one of the best and most motivated Eastwood girls group to ever come out of this program in the past 5 years. They're all young too. It really is incredibly scary what this girls group is capable of. And behind Eastwood was Mountainwood star Mia Harrison, who's making the waves. She's Miss Texas Mousewood of the Week athlete. Her fifth place finish, helped cap off a great season that she's had all year long. She finished in the 2021 and just really showed that she can be one of the top dogs too in terms of the girls division, for Montwood, which also doesn't get mentioned a lot. She's had some great races in and out. She's also known more primarily as quote unquote a basketball player and an 800 runner, which is an interesting mix. And now she's showing that she has the wherewithal to put herself in the discussion for the distancing as well. Other notable performances are out of Pebble Hills High School, led by Aubrey Arsenal with a 7th place finish and a time of 21:04. Also from Eastlake, Avi Molina helped lead her team to a 9th place finish with a 9th place finish and a time of 21:15. And so, where I felt what was the automatic, and that's not to disrespect any other teams. I think these two programs are they're the two dominant forces right now. It's anything can happen, but it's hard to argue against the fact that they're an automatic punched ticket. So, like I said, Eastwood Franklin, they're going to regionals. But what I liked about this third place team was, something I've talked about all season long. It's been a close battle between Pebble Hills Americas and Coronado, and at one point Socorro was kind of in the mix. But it's Pebble Hills that's moving on. They put all the pieces together when they needed it the most, and it was on Thursday, and it shows with them moving on beyond district. So good stuff, out of that girls team. I know Coach Ibrahim's got to be very ecstatic about that, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do and what they're capable of moving on. And the main event, which was the second race of the day, incredible stuff. I felt like things could have gone either way from second to fourth place. But what ended up happening was we have Eastwood, Franklin, and Coronado. That third place was a bit of a toss-up. It could have gone, I think, 2 to 3 different ways. But Coronado was the ones that ended up squeaking out that third place spot. And what was more interesting was how close it was between second and third place. We're looking at a difference of points here. Nothing drastic. So maybe one young man has a little bit of a better race, and we see a different picture here. But this was the Noah Lowry show, as it's been all season long. Making his case for MVP of El Paso this season. He's had all first place finishes in every single one of his races. He finished with a 16:01 time, which is the fastest boys team. Individual boys time to come out of the Horizon Golf Course in the past 3 years. Great stuff with this young man. He's only a junior, and we know that he's just getting started. And what was surprising to me was right behind him was Coronado high school talent, Humberto Serna, who was second place, finishing with a 16:13, so not too far behind Lowry. Now, I think what we're used to seeing out of Lowry is we got some more in the tank from him, and we still got some more in the tank from Serna as well. Serna has been inserted, in my opinion. He's probably top 4, top 5 easy this season. Where we're seeing a lot of third place performances out of him as well. Some other notable performances from this boys race was Pebble Hills front runner Tyler Garanika with a 7th place finish in the time of 16:49. Another great performance out of Francisco Medina, who helped his Franklin boys get that 2nd place time with an 8th overall finish, and first of his team with a time of 16:50. This young man has had an incredible year, and like I said with this Franklin boys team, we look back to the 2018 team that made it to state, which was arguably at the time the best team to ever come out of Franklin. I think this Franklin boys team is even more talented than that team, and they got a lot of room to grow as well. So amazing performances this week. Next week, I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into all the teams that qualified, so we can give hopefully all the athletes the spotlight that they deserve for each respective division and qualifying regional team. But amazing stuff this year. Congratulations to all qualifiers, not just team, but individual as well. Congratulations to all the coaches. Great stuff this week to really show that El Paso belongs on the map of holding some of the better distance runners in the state of Texas. So if you liked what you see, don't forget to subscribe. If you felt like some other athletes deserved a notable shout out, be sure to leave it in the comments below. I'll make sure to interact and respond and give them their due diligence. But thank you for sticking with me this season. We got some more episodes coming out as we got regionals and state, and great stuff this season. So congratulations again to all, and we'll see you guys real soon.